That's a good start.
Greetings. Welcome to our show, Ghosts Are Near, where we discuss various aspects of the paranormal and paranormal investigation. I am your host, Keith Johnson. I am also the founder of New England Anomalies Research. With me is my co-host, Sandra Johnson, co-founder of N.E.A.R.
Hello there.
And senior member, Carl Johnson.
Good evening to you.
And I thought we'd start out this evening by reading a little fan mail, if I may, to Keith and Sandra Johnson of Ghosts Are Near. Hi, Keith and Sandra. I just wanted to take a moment and say, my wife and I love watching your show on Cox. We also love when you are on Ghost Hunters and Paranormal State. We are avid viewers. My interest came from experiences as a child living in an old mansion and later experiences with a Ouija board. That I will never touch again. These boards are bad news. I agree with Ed and Lorraine Warren. Well, I could go on and on. I really wanted to say, number one, God bless. You are both doing great work. Keep it up. They should develop a show with you, Keith and Sandra, and maybe Lorraine Warren.
We already have a show.
As we look to you and Sandra as a young Ed and Lorraine.
Aww.
Now that you are on cable, I keep watching to see when you are on so I can tape your shows. It is great TV. Thanks sincerely, Richard Kuhn, Barrington, Rhode Island. And we really appreciate the mail coming in. Let us know that you're watching. And thanks so much for that. We really, really appreciate it. That was nice.
That was so nice.
Yes.
Wow. Thank you, Richard.
Aren't there any Carl emails in there this time?
Not tonight.
You'll have to bring your own.
I think you just don't read them.
Now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our special guest this evening. She may be familiar to you from Ghost Hunters International, the lovely Shannon Sylvia, our good friend.
Hi. Woman.
Our studio audience obviously appreciates you too.
Hello.
Oh, pink.
Yes.
Awesome.
Shannon requested pink.
Kind of a magenta.
Moniker, and she gets what she wants.
Good job.
Well, you've obviously been traveling, as the shirt denotes, and you look great. Life's been obviously agreeing with you.
Life's been wonderful. I'm very blessed. Thank you for having me here.
Sure. Well, we're very glad to have you. You're a really great kid.
Thank you.
We're blessed to have you here.
I consider you guys very good friends. It's nice to be here.
Great.
So why don't we start out by you introducing how you first became involved with paranormal research. What's stoked your interest?
Start at the very beginning.
Oh, boy. We have enough time? Well, I grew up in a haunted house.
A lot of us did.
Yep.
What started our interest.
Exactly, exactly. It's not an uncommon story. Just obviously grew up in the 70s and 80s, and it was a taboo subject growing up as a child, and especially as a teenager. We didn't have a lot of people to reach out to. We didn't have MySpace. We didn't have the internet.
Right.
There were no paranormal groups whatsoever. So you kind of keep all your experiences inside. Especially the awkward teenage years where you're trying to impress everybody. You don't come out and say, I have a haunted house.
Right.
And so I instead saved my allowance up quite a bit and bought as many books as I could on the subject, especially from Hans Holzer.
Oh, yes.
Books this thick. I still have them all.
And that's a lot of reading.
It's what? I'm almost done. And I read and read and read and read and read. My parents couldn't stand the fact that I just kept reading about the paranormal because I was obviously brought up very Catholic. My father, to this day, still goes to church every day and didn't want me to get involved in the occult, but I wasn't getting involved in it. I just always told them I was reading about it, educating myself about it. So I'm not using a Ouija board. I'm not practicing witchcraft. I'm reading about it so that maybe I can know what to avoid and what not to. And at 21 years old, I finally left the house that I grew up in that was terribly haunted with experiences that are for another show. And
we'll hold you to that.
Yep. And I moved into the condo that I live in now, which is an old schoolhouse from the 1800s, and it was a schoolhouse for over 100 years and has a lot of the original building structure left to it, the original floors from when they were students there, and the brick and the rafters and the beams. And I was very excited to be out of that haunted house, but it was immediately within days of moving into the place I live in now, paranormal activity, and lots of it.
You just can't get away from it.
No.
Now, do you think that you, to interrupt, do you think that you're the catalyst? In other words, in talking with other people that live in the condo building,
Yeah.
do there seem to be a lot of people having experiences? in
Yeah,
that
there are a
building?
lot of others having the experiences, which is a great question, because not a lot of people understand that I'm not the only one out of 12 units in that building that has issues. It's everybody. There are some neighbors that have had no activity, but it might have been they didn't notice it.
Right, right.
So there are neighbors that have a lot of activity. There's a gentleman in the middle floor that has 3 or 4 foot high shadow people running through his apartment. They can hear whistling and playing. They can hear children's voices. There's a woman in the basement that's currently experiencing some issues with something disheveling her apartment. When she cleans it, it's messy. And people on the top floor, obviously that woman came forward on Paranormal State that had lived in the same building as me. And had come forward with her experiences. She only lived there 2 weeks, and the experiences she had were terrible. So we don't know how many entities or spirits are haunting this building. We'll never know.
But you chose to stay there.
Yeah, I do enjoy it there. It's a nice place, and it's not anything harmful or negative. You don't feel scared when you're there. You just want to know more about it. But it's not anything that's going to make me up and leave, especially with the price of real estate these days and the market. And
It's a beautiful place.
Thank you.
I love going to your home. It's so...
We've done some improvements.
Oh, really? Even more?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, it sounds like this would be in the nature of residual hauntings.
Yeah.
Unless they interact with people, it sounds more like a playback experience.
Yes and no. I mean, I absolutely agree. We definitely must have some residuals going on, especially with the school children activity. But we also have voices that mimic my husband and I.
Oh.
For instance, if I'm home alone and I'm in the shower, I hear Jeff on the other side of the door speaking to me. It's not Jeff. And it's happened with Jeff, too, with me. He'll hear my voice, and you can hear adult voices, men and women, speaking to you as if they're right here. And you can't ever quite make out what they're saying, but you can hear them speaking loud and clear, but it's kind of like you wish you could just say, what? Repeat that, say that again. I heard it, but what was it? And I've had some interesting EVPs that I've caught myself in the unit where I had asked if a specific person was present, and I heard a very small child's voice. I'm getting goosebumps as I say it. It said, "It's her," and it's such a sweet voice, but I don't know what it is, who it is.
Well, when Sandra and I were there, I did ask for a sign, and if you remember,
You held your
door,
hand?
yes, and a cupboard door did fly open.
That's right.
Yeah, so that I would consider intelligent when you get a response like that.
Yeah, and we had that same cupboard fly open when Paranormal State did the show, too. And they had asked, it was at the same moment, too, they said, if there's anyone here, please give us a sign. And they were doing their dead time, and it had come open. And I remember years ago when New England Paranormal had done their first investigation, I was standing in the kitchen with one of the investigators, and she said, if there's anyone here, give us a sign. A fork came out of nowhere and went into the kitchen sink, went boom, and we just went, ah, and just went running, because it was so quiet, and it was dark, and we didn't expect anything to come out. But, you know, it does acknowledge you, and it does respond. You know, it responds quite well.
You know, I was just going to say, before the first time that we went and investigated there, one of the times that New England Paranormal investigated, I know Mike Dion recorded a couple of interesting EVPs as well.
Yeah, he got probably 3 or
Paranormal.
4 that night, and he was using them, and I don't know if they're still being used, but he was at the Boston lectures, the classes, he was actually using my EVPs from that very first night as examples of
That's
the
when I
paranormal
heard them.
activity. That's right, and that's the very
During
first
the
time I met
classes.
you guys, years ago. Yeah, it was Mike and Kristen teaching that class with the both of you.
Yes.
And yeah, those are great EVPs. I mean, that was just their first time. I had never actually caught any in my entire life before they came there. I hadn't delved into any of that. So we've got quite a collection now. It's been a couple years. So, you know, it was in 2005 when Mike Dion came to do the investigation, and shortly after I begged him quite a bit to join the club, to join New England Paranormal, because I wanted to be an investigator in the worst way. I mean, I felt like I had enough knowledge. I'd been absorbing this stuff like a sponge since I was a kid. And he said, yeah, we could use a couple more people out your way. And I went through the training in Boston, which hence I met you guys. And from there, it was just a lovely trip. I mean, I did, in my first 6 months, I did 12 cases. And the following year, did as almost every case they had. Just participate, travel, travel, do as much as I could. Love it, love it.
And that's how we learn from
yeah,
experience.
Exactly. And I learned from good, very good teachers. And it's a never-ending process. I'm still learning. I mean, even though I was on Ghost Hunters International, I am not an expert. I'm not even close.
Well, I think everybody in the field is still learning. There's never a time when we're not still learning.
But there are those of us, like you said, you know, that start doing this and you get hooked.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you want to go on every single investigation. I mean, that's when I first started in TAPS, that's the way I was. I wanted, every week, I wanted to be, you know, right in the midst of things.
Yeah, I mean, because it's like fishing. If you catch a fish and you get that adrenaline rush and it feels great and you want to experience that again on a case when something happens, it's like I got to go back. I got to find out if there's really more, and then you learn new techniques. Well, maybe next time I'll try a little harder, or maybe next time I'll give a little bit more time in between my EVPs. And you just do it, and then you find something new to try next time, or try dowsing rods, or try a new flashlight. You know, it's fun.
Right.
I've tried dowsing rods.
They're interesting.
We need to reconcile ourselves to the fact that inevitably we're going to raise more questions than we're going to find answers.
Yep.
Right.
And that can be a little challenging, but that's the field.
Yeah.
And we're
I agree.
also going to kind of hopefully help some people along the way as well.
Indeed.
Well, let's get into Paranormal State. Tell us how that came about.
Okay. It's quite simple. I got a post, somebody posted a bulletin on MySpace that said, do you live in a haunted house? Would you like a professional team to come in with professional equipment and do your investigation? So I said, absolutely, because I already knew I had good results with New England Paranormal, but the thing I didn't have was answers. Okay, I know I have EVPs, I know I can hear voices. Who are they? Why are they here? I thought about it and said, you know what, this new group that's forming with you know, the equipment kind of blew my mind, because I have a meter and I have recorders, but I'm thinking thermal imaging cameras and fancy stuff. So I responded to the post, and immediately they called me. And they did choose my location because it was a historical building, not your typical home. And they came and scouted it and said, this is just wonderful. They really talked to me for a long time about the activity. I mean, they drill you. They don't just show up and say, here we are for Hollywood purposes. They want to know what's going on, because as you know, they get in there and they want to help the client. And I wouldn't necessarily say I needed help. I needed answers. I wasn't traumatized by the hauntings. We weren't terrified. We just wanted to know what was going on. I mean, there's so much history. And they came and filmed the show, and they were there 3 days and 3 nights, and wonderful, wonderful people. I mean, they're just very professional and caring, and
they do spend a lot of time.
Yeah.
Because Keith and I have worked with them a couple of times, and especially the New York location, they spent weeks with that case. So I know they must have spent quite some time.
Yeah, they spend a lot of time with us, getting to know us. And it's a completely different show. It's a different format. They don't just walk into your house and whip out the equipment and do the investigation, put it all back together and say, have a good night, we'll call you with the results. So, you know, it was a great experience for us, and I just kept praying, please just let something happen tonight, tomorrow. Just don't let nothing happen, because then they think you're nuts. And no, we had great activity there. Between we did have a light bulb unscrew. That was a very big problem, with the light bulbs constantly coming unscrewed. I haven't had a single one unscrew since you and Paranormal State came.
Really?
And not a single one. And it's been a year. We had light bulbs unscrewing all the time. So, you know, a lot of the activity has ceased, and I do think, you know, between the blessing and the show, and maybe Jamie coming in and helping, and they did do Reiki on me to kind of just let me chill out. I was under a lot of stress, and I think it was
Jamie
wonderful.
do that?
No, it was Jarina.
Jarina.
She was from a different country. She's a really lovely girl. She does Reiki, very calming. They didn't air. It didn't air, which was fine, because, you know, it was different. And you know, I'm really glad I did that show because I wanted the answers and sort of a validation as to what was going on. And although we didn't exactly get it, we do know that there was activity, and another group came in, and this other woman came forward who lived 6 hours away in New York. And to hear her say, yes, all this happened to me, this happened, it was wonderful because this was happening to me too. And so it's always nice to hear validation. I mean, I'll never hear enough of it.
Yes, right.
I just want to know, am I crazy? So the show, I mean, I think it was wonderful. Of course, it aired a year later, which confused some people.
Right,
but,
right, yeah, the timeline. And
the timeline. But it's been wonderful ever since. The activity's been very, very quiet. There have been a couple slight apparitions in the unit since, but it's just very quick and it goes, and there's been witnesses, but harmless. They don't eat much. That's what we say. That's Jeff's line.
Hope they pay rent, Jeff, right?
Jeff, who is a member of our studio audience tonight, among the many.
So now, all of a sudden, you're going to overseas to country. Now, tell about the change in that. How
Paranormal investigator's dream.
Yeah,
Tell
I know.
us all about it.
It's crazy.
It changed your life quite a bit, obviously, at least your routine, you know.
Yeah, it did. It did and it didn't. It's still surreal to
It
me.
hasn't changed you, but...
No, it really didn't at all. I mean, I've got great memories in my head and beautiful pictures and amazing cases that I got to ghost hunt on. You know,
Is this from one of the countries?
yes, I bought this in Prague, not England. Yeah, we have very little time to shop for ourselves, so when we do, we kind of just, it's usually in airports,
Right, and
inflated prices.
and that's
airports,
right.
but
It's not really like vacation land.
No,
I mean,
it's
there's such the schedule. How many hours a day are you usually shooting?
one day was 17 hours.
Wow.
That was
a
the
long
longest
day.
day. It was brutal. That was the Romania episode where it had snowed so heavily. It just put a damper on our entire
Well,
case.
you can't really come and go from the location either.
No,
So.
no. These developing countries sometimes they don't have roads, and you got donkeys and carts and.
Right.
I mean, we got our equipment up, some of it using a donkey and a cart, and
really?
we pay the locals with
That's the first.
chainsaws. You know, you go with the flow, and it can be fun, but it can be grueling work, and all of it just to go on an investigation for one night. So I like to ghost hunt more than anything, but I also enjoy walking into a home and doing a case and then leaving. But you have to prepare for an entire week for this one night. So it's like planning a wedding over and over and over. But it's rewarding as all heck. I mean, you fly to these beautiful countries. I mean, when I was chosen for the part of Shannon Sylvia,
You play her very well.
Enough of that.
they were looking for a Shannon Sylvia.
Yeah, she
I mean.
pulls it off.
It's very impressive.
You met the criteria. Right.
I met the criteria. I mean, they were looking for a certain character that had certain traits. And I tell everybody, Donna is so sweet and earthy, and I am not. You know, I'm the opposite of Donna. They wanted someone sarcastic. I think that was just perfect. And they
kind of create some tension.
Yeah, well, that too.
They do like interaction, I know.
They do. And they got a lot.
A lot.
They did. I mean, you put 6 people in a fishbowl for a month on the road.
Oh yeah, and you've got
And
jet lag.
personality.
And, right.
Jet lag, and
you know,
no one's sleeping, and
you know,
you just
personality clashes, because nobody is, you know, gets along 100% of the time or thinks exactly alike. And,
Well, I think everybody gets along with Keith, but he's,
well, maybe
he's an exception.
yeah. You want to come on the road with us? Even you and I would be at each other's.
And of course, the three of us have worked extensively with Brian.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, right, exactly.
Or a team, so. Yeah.
You know, you just sometimes you have good days and bad days. I mean, sometimes you really, really miss your family back at home,
course,
and then you're bummed out and you're walking around all mopey, and some days something happens good finally, and you're happy, and it gets you going. But it's like life, but on the road. And it's wonderful. It's just a great experience because you pull up to these locations, and we always just look up, and of course the camera catches it, and I'm like, and
Hold that pose.
yeah,
Right, you know.
the Shannon deer in headlights look, of course.
Hold that for about
And,
30 seconds.
But I mean, what do people expect
Can you
us
do
to
that again? Yeah, right.
I mean, we're dumbfounded. It's a beautiful castle, and like Frankenstein's castle, which I didn't even
Yeah.
know was real
Right.
until
right. A lot
I
of
heard
people,
about Germany.
A lot of people don't, and that's one of my, of course, subjects of interest. I research all these ancient castles and everything like that, especially Frankenstein's
Well,
castle.
that is where Mary Shelley got the name.
Right.
I believe it was Conrad Dippel was
Yeah,
the character
Johann
that
Conrad
Dr.
Dippel,
Frankenstein
yeah.
was based upon, but he was a member of the Frankenstein family,
Yes.
or he occupied that castle
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
a time.
And
Yeah.
all of a sudden
You
you're
had a
there.
bad
and-
end, too.
Yes, right. That's true.
Prussic acid will do it every time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Trying to find the elixir of immortality.
If I may
Yeah.
ask Shannon a question,
Sure.
what commonalities did you find going through these diverse locations, these countries in Europe? I mean, are European ghosts are the same? Are ghosts is what I'm really saying. Do they have the same characteristics, or did you really notice differences because of these different cultures?
The differences, of course, with the language. We caught a lot of EVPs in different languages, and we couldn't
Yeah.
understand them, so they had to be deciphered by the locals, or Barry, of course, who's a wealth of
Yeah.
information. Another problem is, of course, a lot of the locations we went to was a war-torn location. I mean, obviously, a castle on a hill is not there because some lady with long hair is hanging her head out there and a dragon's going to come and...
Exactly.
No, the castle's there because they hoarded everyone from the town up there to protect them from the intruders, and people died left and right at these castles. They were slaughtered soldiers, and so you have a lot of turmoil. I mean, we don't have that back in Leominster where I live, and certainly not here in Providence. In Warwick, I mean, these people, thousands and thousands and thousands of people died in just a single location. So, you know,
Very
you can
abrupt,
feel
dramatic
the energy,
Right.
and I'm not a feeler.
But there you are for like just a number of hours or a number
Yeah.
of days with all this history, and I'm sure you try to take in as much as you possibly can.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you'd probably want to spend at least 2 or 3 weeks there if you could, you know.
Yeah,
just,
kind of.
just to experience everything there.
Yeah,
you
as
know?
long as it's a warmer time of
Well,
year,
yes.
because that was a huge problem.
Oh yeah. Like you could tell.
The
You
cold.
could tell you were freezing there. You could just tell.
Oh gosh, it just went right through your bones to the
Sitting
point
there
where you.
freezing, waiting for Barry
Yeah.
to come back, and
You
It-
usually had a very warm hat on.
yes, yeah, it's good. You always had a warm hat on.
Why
yeah.
just me though? You know what? There were other cast members that wore hats. I mean,
You know-
seriously, Brian wears a hat. You'll never see him without a hat. Nobody ever talked about his hats. I don't get it. They all bought me a hat for my birthday too, so of course I had to wear that hat. If I didn't wear
remember
that hat,
the hat. You're
it was-
known
it
for
was
your
peer
hat.
pressure.
A woman of many
GHI.
hats.
I was cold. All right. First of all, I have
Your
a
hats were unique.
I have a lot of hair, okay? So
Yep.
think static. Everybody has experienced it except for that guy. And no, static electricity is terrible in these locations where the air is so cold and dry. So
Yeah, right.
if you wear your hair back in a ponytail, you're freezing. It was a thing that it was a dilemma for me. Like, do I wear a hat and stay warm and keep the hair down?
Right, right. You can't really prepare for it ahead of time. You don't know what it's going to be like till you get there. And
No, we were cold. I mean, even some of the indoor shots in Germany, you could see the guy's breath
yeah,
as
right.
they were doing the reveal, and that's indoors. It was on the temperature, I think 19 degrees one night indoors.
Indoors.
Oh, my
Indoors. So they stick us in these locations that are just so ice cold, and you're out there for 12, 17 hours. Like, nobody
Yeah.
can tolerate
Start
that.
to go into hyperthermia after a while, I would think.
Honest to God, Donna was getting sick at some point, and you do feel ill and nauseous, and
Yeah.
it's terrible. So
Yeah.
you just do the best you can, and I would love to go to a warmer climate,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, I assume maybe you will.
Yeah.
You'd be going to, nice to be going to Hawaii, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be a good location.
There's a haunted
I
highway.
did hear through the grapevine that you were all sick at one point.
Yes.
You all had something, except for Brian. He was the only one that didn't get it.
The only one that didn't get it, yeah.
Yeah, we were sick. I was really sick out there. The director was vomiting violently one night as
Oh dear.
the guy was in a fetal position. I felt terrible. I mean, we all had a bug. It was terrible. And then I came home and was sick for like
And you
another
were
month.
all cloistered together, and
Yeah.
one person after another, after another, after another.
The mics, I mean, just think about the microphones, and then the next guy uses the mic.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, there's no Lysol to be had out there.
God, you must miss that. You must really miss being on the road.
Yeah, yes and no. Mostly yes.
Sandra, you had a question, didn't you? A couple of questions you were going to
Well,
ask?
I wanted to know your specific feeling on women in the paranormal. I have to ask that of every woman that comes on the show.
You mean the
and
lack
get
thereof?
different-
Yeah.
Well,
Well, that's why. That's why we want to get your
we want
opinion, you know.
Your opinion.
It's kind of strange to me because I'm still new to the paranormal. It's only been a couple years to me. So coming in, when I joined N.E.A.R, I didn't think, wow, there's not enough girls here. I didn't think anything of it because I've always...
Well, N.E.A.R is kind of half and half anyway,
Yeah,
isn't it?
exactly. And it wasn't until recently where I'm branching out and networking with so many people now.
Right.
It's an issue. I've seen it personally on GHI. You know, there's only 2 of us and 4 of them. And the women, and Donna will say this too, the women are not treated the same way the men are. If the guy comes up with an idea, it's like, oh, what a great idea. If we came up with an idea, it's edited right out. So it is. It's heartbreaking. That's the film company for you, but we're not taken seriously, and I don't like being treated as fragile. So if I have to hike up a snow mound or go through a floor that has holes in it, I don't want to be treated like a baby chick. You know, I can do it. I'm athletic.
Well, you didn't really come across as fragile on the show.
Thank you.
No, I didn't see
No,
that
you
at
just
all.
do it. I mean, we can do the same
Voice
thing. We
your
can
own
jump
opinion,
just as
yeah.
high, and you know, we just do the same thing as the guys. There need to be more women. We are good at computers, and we're good with equipment, and we're good with being empathetic. And we have areas, obviously, that men sort of lack. I mean, that's just genetic, and it's not anyone's fault. But
Right. But I think men and women complement each other. And,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Ideally, they do. Also, in spite of the limitations, I do think you and Donna are making a difference.
great, thank you.
in this.
It's nice to hear.
I think that it's getting out there. You're not incompetent. You're just as qualified
Yeah.
as are the men, just as serious, just as inquisitive,
Yeah.
And I
just
think
as
we're all on
intelligent,
the
to be
same
sure.
team,
Yeah.
too.
All on the same team,
Yeah.
common cause.
Oh, what do you know, Carl? You didn't even watch the show.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at your notes.
Stay away from my nose.
Believe it or not, we're almost out of time.
Yeah, we have
You
2
know,
more minutes.
Shannon, we got to have you back. We really got to have you back.
Absolutely.
you know?
Anytime.
And any closing words you want to say before we wrap things up?
You're putting me on the spot.
Yeah, you're on the spot. Now, this is your spotlight.
Does it every time.
Yeah.
Feeling all flush. No, I really don't. I think we've covered just about everything, and you know, you guys are wonderful, and I've known you a few years, and every time you leave me a comment on MySpace, it just melts my heart because I respect you guys
the same
huge.
way about you.
I do feel like in that email you are going to be the next Lorraine and Ed. I mean, you'll never replace them, but you know, the 2 of you pop in my head as demonologists, the demonologists, and I really enjoy your company every time I bump into you guys.
Well,
Thank
we
you for
needed
having
something
me.
Really
profound,
appreciate that.
No problem.
and you delivered.
Sandra,
Thank you.
any
Invite us again soon.
Yes, please do.
Yeah, we at N.E.A.R would like you to know that you're welcome to contact us if you'd like to research, if you need us to research your alleged hauntings or assist those of you who may be experiencing unexplained phenomenon, your home or place of business. We'd also like to hear from you if you have a show suggestion or would even like to be a guest on Ghost N.E.A.R, like Shannon here. So give us a shout out. And there's our email, ghostsarnear@cox.net, and we will believe you.
Shannon, thanks again, and God bless.
Thank you. God bless.
Thank you for being here, studio audience. See you next time. Ghost N.E.A.R.
Good night. Hold on.
Now we can talk amongst ourselves.
All right.
Yeah,
We have no idea if what we
basically
say will be
relax
heard,
and
but we can talk amongst
talk
ourselves.
amongst ourselves. Like, blah, blah, blah.